All right, let's take a look at the toolbar, and you'll notice that there are icons here that look a little bit familiar, like the lasso and the pen tool and the pencil, etc. And in fact, they are very similar to the other programs you may be familiar with, Photoshop and Illustrator especially. But Flash has some unique tools, and also the tools don't behave exactly the way you might expect them to. So let's start to take a look at them from simple to complex, beginning with these color chips right here. Unlike Photoshop, these don't represent foreground and background. By default, we're given this white background. They represent a stroke color, as you can see if you hover, it says stroke color, and fill color. And that's exactly what it means. So for example, when we draw a rectangle in a moment, you'll see that the center of the rectangle will be black and the line around it is going to be this orangey color. To get a different color, you just hold down on the chip and you'll see that you have this palette, this lovely palette, and what this represents are web colors. You'll see the numbers up here look very familiar. They are web colors, and also you have a few gradients down here, radial gradients and a couple of linear gradients. So I'm going to pick a color that we can see really well, and let's start to take a look at some of these tools. Now, when you click on a tool, you'll notice that your properties window changes. So for example, the pencil, we have some options. The bucket, we get different options. So let's take a look at this tool, which is probably the most simple tool. It's the line tool, and it shows that our color currently is the red color and that there is no fill because the line tool does not give you fills. We also have the width of the stroke. By default, it's set to 1. And also solid with options below it, normal, horizontal, vertical, or none, so we could lock in, etc., etc., caps and joins. So let's just go and see what this tool does. I'm going to click down and pull, and this is the line tool. It goes from point A to point B. If you hold the shift key, which I'm doing right now, you can lock it into horizontal and vertical, or again, if you wanted to, you could use the horizontal, vertical, all that good stuff. But so let's start by changing the size. Get a nice fat line here. It's always a good idea to try and stick with even numbers, so I'm going to type this number in because Flash, unlike other programs, can do what's called interpixel, which means it can create shapes that kind of go between pixels as a vector. So I'm going to make a line here, point A to point B, and you see that it's got squared off edges. That's actually because I've been messing around in here already. That is affected by the cap. Right now the cap is set to square. If I change it to round, well, you have to have it selected, so I'm going to use the black arrow tool, select my line, and then I'm going to change it to round. You'll see that we now have these sort of little bubbles at the end. Let's make it fatter so you can really see those. And we could change it to square again. And I want to point out the difference between square versus none. See how the line appears to be shorter? This is actually the length of the line. The caps actually go beyond the length of the line. So there it is with the round cap, there it is with the square cap. And it's particularly significant when you're on a fat line. You probably won't see the difference on a thin line like that. So I believe that that is a pretty decent tour of the line tool. Let's say I want to erase my area now to show you another tool. I'm going to just double click on the eraser tool. Actually, you can erase, with the eraser, or you can double click the eraser and erase your entire stage. So let's go on to the next tool. Probably the next most simple tool is the pencil tool. Now when I click on the pencil tool, you'll see that we have similar settings to the line, but we get a couple of different things down here. And these are probably most significant with the pencil tool. I'd like to show you what these mean. We've got straighten, smooth, and ink. So let me draw an oval 3 times, and I'll show you what the difference is pretty clearly. So this is with straighten, and if I come out here and I draw an oval, woo, that's a fat line. Let's get a lot thinner line here. Let's go with a 2. Okay, so I'm going to draw an oval, and ovals aren't so easy to draw, and I'm actually using a touchpad right now, so it's really wiggly. But when I let go, it's going to snap to be a perfect oval. So when we have this straighten on, it helps us to draw perfectly even though we are far from perfect. I'm going to go to smooth now and show you the difference. I'm going to try once again with my clumsy touchpad here to draw an oval, and notice that it smoothed it out a little bit, but clearly there's some bumps and lumps in here. Then I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom choice, which is ink, and I'm going to draw that oval again. And you'll see, ooh, boy, that's a really lovely one, that it's going to keep every little lump and bump that I draw. So, in terms of memory, this requires the least amount of memory. It's got the fewest points. This has more points, and this has the most points on it. If you were trying to do a file that was very small, you would want to opt for this. If you wanted it to have a little bit of character but still be a smaller file, opt for this. And that's the one that people use most of the time unless they're doing, geometric work. Really, this becomes almost overkill, especially when things are moving. You're not going to notice these little hiccups. But if you have a lot of shapes on there, that could add significant amount to your file.